Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA Edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith. We're going to go over this 4-game DraftKings main slate. I'm really not trying to take up much of your time. The goal here is to help you win. If we do that in any way, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and come join us in Discord. If you want extra help with updated advice, that is what Discord is for. And if you want core plays for FanDuel, DraftKings Night Slate, and more, head to our Patreon. All links for those things can be had in our YouTube video and our YouTube page. All right, let's get into it. Position by position we go. Cade Cunningham and James Harden up top. About the same price, about the same projection. Like everything looks pretty good for both these guys. And they're both carrying some ownership. Cunningham right now at 25, Harden at 36. I mean, I lean Cunningham here when we're looking at the ownership. Slightly better projections, slightly better ceiling, really, when you look at the season. But where are you at here with these two guys?
Yeah, the matchup favors Harden, but I assume he's also going to be owned at a higher clip. So I don't know if the difference between the ownerships is going to make that much of a difference overall. So like they're both great plays. I favor Harden as the cheaper one in the better spot, but still the field. So hardly a hot take there. I do think there are ways to get different though. Like they're both going to be quite popular, which means guys like Damian Lillard, Tyrese Halliburton if he plays, Donovan Mitchell if he plays, Darius Garland in any scenario are going to be probably lower owned. So I don't think Harden and Cade are good enough to be like staples or must plays. I think getting both of them if you're entering a lot of lineups makes sense. But certainly not must plays if you're entering like one lineup or something like that.
Yeah, like there's a whole other conversation we had too with when you get to Giannis here on this slate. 4-game slate. Giannis is probably the only guy in the slate that has like 90-point fantasy ability. Like obviously Harden or Cunningham could do that, but like consistently wise, like based off of proven experience, like that's Giannis, and like really nobody else in the slate is probably going to do that. So that's a whole other conversation to have. But and then you can start thinking about like, do we go balanced with one of these guys? I agree that ownership's not a huge deal. I do think if it's like 11% difference, that's something. And then there's also something to be said about possibly leveraging Harden within his own team because Zubac and Kawhi are also going to look really good. That said, both those guys look great. If you want to build around them or pair them together, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I'm not really in on Dame. I think he's a fine leverage play on Giannis if the ownership ticks up. The matchup is good. The price isn't egregious. I'm just not super excited to play him. I think he is a good leverage play on those guys, like you said. I'm just not really on it. Same with Halliburton if he's in. Totally fine play. For GPPs, I think he's a little bit more exciting than Dame just because he's got a better matchup there. So totally fine. I think the really interesting thing is going to be the Cavs. So Donovan Mitchell's questionable. If Donovan Mitchell's out, how are you reading this situation? Are you just auto playing? Well, Sam Merrill's shooting guard. We'll get to him in a second. But are you just like jumping down or dropping down at Darius Garland at 7-1 and just eating that chalk?
I think he's a fine play. I don't know if he's a must. Like it's not like he's super cheap at 71. He's not generally a player that offers a consistently high ceiling. Like Cade and Harden and Dame, I think, and Halliburton offer a lot more upside more consistently. Like even if he gets more usage without Mitchell, Brooklyn's not an easy matchup necessarily. So like he's fine, but if he's going to be significantly more popular because Mitchell is out, like I'm okay letting the field play that. I might play it around even with or slightly under the field. Just point guard always has a lot of opportunity costs. So if a lot of my opponents are going to flock to Darius Garland, I think there are certainly others to go that merit consideration. Like Jordan Poole, CJ McCollum, both at the same range, like worse spots, worse projection, but you're going to get an ownership discount on them. I think the range of outcomes is probably pretty similar. So I don't mind pivoting that if Garland's going to be mega chalk.
Yeah, I mean, Poole is definitely a GPP play. A big thing we have to ask ourselves is like, okay, if Poole's going to hit, how does that happen, and how does Poole become a good play? I mean, the spread in that game is a 15-point spread. You can say the same thing with somebody like Cam Thomas at 6.2K in a 16-point spread against the Cavs. Like, if the Nets or the Wizards are going to keep those games close, how do they do it? More than likely, it's Poole or Cam Thomas going off. I actually have a lot of interest in Cam Thomas. I was a little bit disappointed to see the ownership at 21% because I was hoping I was going to be able to sneak him in there and the field wasn't going to be spotting him. That's not happening. He did play 29 minutes last game. He's going to be back after resting in the last game. Not a really good matchup, but if the Nets are actually going to be competitive here, he's probably going to have to nuke. So I think he's a little bit interesting at 6.2. How are you feeling about him?
Yeah, I mean, he gets tons of usage while he's out there. No Russell tonight. He's
Right.
resting for Brooklyn, so he and Cam Johnson are probably going to be the offense. Thomas being limited makes him a little bit more difficult to trust, of course, and the matchup sucks. And Brooklyn has the lowest total on the entire slate, so there are things working against him, especially if he is going to be owned by a third or a quarter of the field. He's a fine play in a vacuum, especially since you can play him at point guard and small forward on DK. But again, even on a 4-game slate, we have a lot of alternatives. So if Thomas is chalk, everyone else wants to eat. I don't hate it, but it's like I don't see him as a must play at all.
Yeah. Also chalky, Jose Alvarado at 23%. He looks like a good value off the bench for the Pels at 4.6K. Obviously the matchup with the Clippers is not very exciting, but obviously he'd be kind of blow up proof here. The game does only have a 7-point spread, which is weirdly the second best spread of the slate. So he looks like relatively good chalk at 4.6. How do you feel about him?
He's okay. Like he's going to play 20 to 25 minutes probably, but McCollum's back. They have Zion. They have Trey Murphy. It's not like they're bare boned team tonight. They do have a couple guys missing, like Olynyk, but Alvarado is a chalky guy coming off the bench. Doesn't seem like an amazing play. We are hurting for cheap value, so that's probably why he's getting steamed up a bit. But the Clippers are also a pretty bad matchup. So not that I feel a whole lot better about him, but I think Chris Dunn at 4.7, even though he's also going to be quite owned, is fine too, just because the matchup's better. He's playing around 30 minutes in the starting role in theory. So a guy like that, as a pivot from Alvarado, who's going to play fewer minutes in all likelihood, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. There's also Boggy, who's not point guard here, but he's like 200 or so more than Dunn, and he's kind of in the same situation. Not sure how owned he is. Jordan Hawkins on the same team as Alvarado, 4.2K, a little bit cheaper, less owned. He's also a pivot against him too. And then Andrew Nemhard, he could end up getting a lot of steam if Hallie is out again. He would look good at 5.8. I'm not really seeing anybody else that I'm like super interested in. There are other values. Like Schroeder at 4.4 is getting minutes, but like I'm not super excited to do that. What's your general strategy here? Like what one point guard are you feeling the best about right now?
It's probably Harden. Like just the ceiling without Norm Powell is there for him. The matchup is really terrific also. So probably him, but I do agree that, I think Schroeder's a pretty good play too. Like I know he's off the bench just like Alvarado. He's been similar per minute. They're essentially the same player. Given the range of outcomes and production and the role right now. So I don't mind mixing and matching these guys. The cheap point guards make sense. I like that Schroeder and Dunn have shooting guard, which Alvarado does not. And then we'll see about this Indiana stuff. Like Halliburton's missed a few games in a row. Nemhard's playing big minutes. McConnell was limited last night and he's questionable again tonight. So don't really have a lot of faith that he's going to play. So even if McConnell's out,
I don't think I'd be playing him even if he was.
That's what I'm saying. And I think Nemhard, like if Halliburton's in and McConnell's out, I'd still feel okay enough about Nemhard's minutes to pay up for him at 5.8. And also Keon Johnson, another sub 5K value for Brooklyn, one body missing from the lineup in D'Angelo Russell. He's been pretty good per minute. Matchup obviously horrible, but another cheap guy to consider. There's quite a bit in the sub 5K range you don't feel great about, but they're all viable.
Yeah, and kind of to your point, since there are a bunch of options and none of them really stand out, and obviously everybody thinks Alvarado is standing out, maybe just go away from Alvarado a little bit, and that kind of will solve it for you. For me, it's going to be Cade up top right now, and then if we're going all the way down, I do think Chris Dunn looks like the best play there. If you want to value, that's probably what I'm doing, all the way up top or going down to Dunn right now. We'll see what happens. So, all right, a shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, if he's in at 8.5K, has the best projection, which that's disgusting. He's not even over 40 fantasy points here. Trey Murphy, in theory, 7.7K is a good price for him, but I don't think I want to do that against the Clippers. And then we have Malik Beasley, and it gets really dark after that, man. So this is probably a good spot where we can use Bogdanovich, we can use Chris Dunn, we can look at Pistons value, like you already alluded to, Nemhard. Like this just feels like a spot to save. And of course, with no Ty Jerome, it could be Sam Merrill season. I don't have any issue playing him at 3.3K on this slate.
I guess.
Hey,
it's a really bad slate.
But look at this position. Shooting guard is horrible.
Every position is horrible. So like,
No,
yeah,
but
I
this
guess
is
you can
like
play him.
as bad as I've seen shooting guard the whole entire season. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it usually is. So you're probably paying down here. Like you can pay up for Mitchell or Murphy, of course, pretty much every night, but it is a value spot overall. It's just hard to find a value you feel comfortable with. Like Dunn and Schroeder would be the ones, but they're going to be owned accordingly. Malik Beasley going to be owned accordingly, even off the bench. We talked about Keon. I think Strus at 4-1, assuming Mitchell's going to be out, is perfectly fine. DeAndre Hunter's also questionable, so that's another body potentially missing from the lineup. And then after that, you're just kind of throwing darts at guys like Smart and Prince and Trent and Hardaway. It's very ugly. Neesmith, I guess, would be one of the better options if Halliburton's out again. But even him, like, you don't want to pay 5-1 for Neesmith and feel good about it. So
No, he's
I
actually
don't know,
been pretty
man.
good lately. But the second you trust in Aaron Neesmith, you know damn well what's going to happen.
And I guess you can add Zaire Williams to the list, playing pretty consistent minutes, guard forward eligible, so that's nice. He's 4-4. Like, you're not going to feel good about any shooting guard you roster. So getting out of here,
No,
even playing a guy into ownership, I think is fine, just because it's such a mess.
but that's precisely why I have zero issue with playing a Sam Merrill. Like, he's not like a super comfortable play, but on this slate, I would rather just do that. Like, I'm only gonna do one lineup tonight. This slate sucks. But Sam Merrill 3.3 saves me a ton of money here, and then you have no DeAndre Hunter, possibly no Ty Jerome. Like, it's opened up for Merrill to have a nice 25-minute roll off the bench here, and he should get good usage. So I think he looks good. That position can die. Okay, so over at small forward, Kawhi Leonard looks really good against the Pels. Obviously, he's going to carry some ownership due to the matchup at the price. He's getting shit ton of minutes. So nothing really bad about Leonard. The only thing would be, don't think you really want to pair him and Harden. I guess you could stack Clippers just because it's one of the better spreads on the game, and it's it could be a good game, honestly, if the Pels can keep it close. But I think Leonard over Harden is my approach right now on the slate. He looks good. Not super into Zion in this matchup. And after Leonard, I'm going down. I like that Cam Thomas, like you said, is small forward eligible, but I'd keep going down after that. It'd be Kawhi, then Cam Thomas, or I'm saving cash here.
Yeah, Kawhi into ownership feels pretty horrible to me. He's just not the guy he used to be. He's now over 8K. He's going to be owned by probably half the field. Like, I understand it's an ugly slate, but I don't really think Kawhi has the ceiling to justify that. Like, you're not getting a discount in salary. You're not getting a discount in ownership. So I don't know. Like, he's a good play in a vacuum, but overall, it's not very exciting. I do think Zion's an awesome play. He's going to be single-digit owned in all likelihood. 9,200 minutes have come up. The matchup's tough, but on a 4-game slate, it's kind of hard to get different. You won't find guys on a slate like this that have slate breaking upside who aren't going to be popular. And if you're playing a bunch of Clippers, which you probably are, getting correlation with someone on the New Orleans side makes sense, because if the Clippers hit their ceilings, the Pelicans probably keep the game close. And the best way to do that, like you said earlier, some of the other guys, is probably for Zion or Trey Murphy or someone like that to have a game. So Murphy will be more popular than Zion given the positional eligibility, which makes Zion a very good tournament play, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're looking at a lot of the same crap. Cam Thomas, we talked about, Strus, Zaire, Beasley, Kyle Kuzma, I think is okay in that Indiana-Milwaukee game, which is certainly the best on the slate to target. But with everybody in, he's also not a guy who show a lot of upside generally.
Yeah, I hear you on the Leonard thing, but he is playing the Pels, so that can cure some of these issues for sure. The other thing is Zion, like, would he really be a priority for you if he wasn't projected for 5% ownership? I don't think so. Like, the only
you need
real
some way to get different, because everyone on this, like the Clippers, are going to be hugely choppy.
But he has 9.2K for a guy that plays like 29 minutes. Like, I understand the GPP
and he
appeal
has
for
ceiling
sure
in 29 minutes. So like,
I'm just
if you're
saying
the idea, I think he's a pretty good play.
The idea of Zion is good. I don't have a lot of faith in it at 9.2K. Like, I don't love that that's where I'm investing my funds when I have Harden, Cade, and Giannis. Like, how are you getting to Zion comfortably? Like, that build's got to suck. Like, if you're gonna, like, you got to be fading Giannis, or
significantly more expensive. Like, that build has to suck too, doesn't it?
No, on a 4-game slate, he has the best ceiling you could ask for, and it's like
So
a
the
really good
build for
matchup against the
Giannis,
Pacers.
who's more expensive, is okay and fun, but the build for the cheaper Zion is tough.
I think if you play Giannis, you're probably just playing Giannis and not looking to force in like Cade or Harden or Zion. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying like if you play Zion, like if you're just stuck at the end of the night and Zion needs to get 60, I think that's a bad place to be. Is all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's a bad GPP play. He 100% is.
A good
All right.
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good GPP play. I just don't feel really good about it. That's all. Because 9.2K for a guy who's going to play 29 minutes feels bad. Like I don't really like it. Plus the matchup
on a
isn't good.
4-game slate, so
I know. All right,
so many ways to get different.
that's true. If Hallie is out, I guess we could look at Mathurin. God, he really sold yesterday. I liked him yesterday as a completely overlooked value play, 7% owned, and he just totally shat the bed. He's in play, like he's there. He played a ton of minutes, was really productive like 2 games ago. So there's that. All the other guys we kind of already talked about for the most part. Just Kyle Kuzma, who we didn't touch on. He's going to get minutes. He's okay. Like I don't have a problem with him, especially if you want to pivot off of like Cam Thomas, same price. He could always go off. It's a good matchup. You never know. Not super into Zara Thompson here at 5.5K. His minutes are getting yanked around again, but it is the Wizards. So what are you thinking there? You like Zara at all?
Yeah, looks like he's kind of owned. So I do have concerns about him playing like 20 minutes a game since Tobias came back. But
right,
again, the slate is such a shithole that I'm okay with it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like horrible Wizards like Kispert and Smart. Amir Coffey had 2 fantasy points in 27 minutes the other night, so that's pretty cool.
Seems bad.
Yeah,
that's just such a low
good.
floor. My gosh.
But Bogdanovich came off the bench the other night. I guess he's okay. Like Batum started over him. I don't know why. We'll get to Batum, I guess, as a viable value. But
I don't mind Boggy off the bench though. It just naturally is going to increase his usage. He's not going to be losing all of it to Kawhi and Harden.
He's just going to probably not as many minutes. That's the trade-off
right
to consider.
That's true, but 5K, it's not like
Evan.
Hey, there's Bruce Brown, 4.1K, your boy. Yeah, I mean, honestly,
right?
Like you said, I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe he is. Hopefully, then we can look at Jordan Hawkins or punt all the way down to Antonio Reeves, who hit every shot the other day. Point is, a lot of these guys just kind of bleed into each other here in like the 3.6 to 4.7K range. They're all the same fucking play. They all suck. Just don't eat the chalky ones. All right, power forward Giannis. I love Giannis here. Best projection in the slate, also very expensive. He's not projecting for like insane ownership, so if people are going to be underweight on Giannis, I'm just going to play Giannis. Where that gets me when we're just talking about like what the build feels like, I don't know. I think if I'm going to play Giannis, I'm probably just paying for Giannis and not trying to force a second stud in, and I'm just going to hope like Giannis goes off and that's enough. It really depends on how comfortable you are with the other value, and then it's just your call if you're going to play Giannis or not. I love him. I'm okay with Kawhi still. I like the savings compared to Zion. You made good points about Kawhi though, so I'm kind of doubting that a little bit. Zion is a good GPP play. I won't deny that. Siakam with no Hallie would look good at 8.2. Evan Mobley with no Spida at 8.3. Like that's the other thing. Like those guys are there. Like if Halliburton's out and Spida is out, Mobley and Siakam are just better plays than Zion. So you really need Zion to fucking go off for that to work out.
That's the whole point. Like that's the whole point of playing tournaments is you're hunting for the ceiling.
I know. That's why I want to play Giannis if nobody's going to be on him because he could get a lot.
I see him at 38% ownership, so he will be pretty popular.
Well, that's not the ownership I see, but I'll trust you. All right. So if you're not going to play Zion and if you don't want Giannis, where are you going at power forward?
I think Mobley's a good play, even if Mitchell's in. Like, he has a ceiling. If Mitchell's out, he's going to get more popular, but I don't mind it. He's underpriced relative to the upside he can offer if he gets going. I think Arlo Matkovic is probably the best play here. Like Kelly Olynyk's out. Matkovic may not start, but he's under 4K. He's averaging about 0.9 fantasy points per minute, which is good. We've seen upside from him when he gets the minutes. The matchup sucks, but on a slate with really sketchy value on these sketchy Eastern Conference teams, I think Matkovic is one of the ones that I feel better about. I don't care if he's owned. Like you have to eat some ownership in NBA. I'm okay with that. Ditto for Obi Toppin. Like if Halliburton's out again, he generally plays a few more minutes off the bench. We have seen him occasionally offer like slate breaking upside. It's been a while, but if you're rolling the dice on these shaky values, you might as well get someone like Obi if he's not going to be owned at all in a game with the highest total and the tightest spread on the slate. Tobias, fine. Never feel great about him. Batum, if he starts again, 3-7, okay. Not a good per minute guy, and he's old, but it is a good matchup for them. Let's see, Trendon Watford. We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel with this stuff, but Watford is a good per minute guy. Generally plays about 20 off the bench. Fine. Yeah, like middle Siakam if Hallie's out is okay, but that's another guy who's generally more of a high floor than high ceiling play. And then Derek Jones, like if Batum is going to be more popular, I don't mind Jones for like 400 more. Minutes are a bit more safe, and the slate is bad.
You had me at Matkovic. Okay, moving on to center. I don't like power forward at all. It's Giannis or Matkovic. Giannis is there too. You have Zubac, who looks really, really good at 8K. Going to be owned, but against the Pels, that is a tough one to ignore. That said, Duren is my favorite player in the entire fucking slate. He's facing the Wizards. He's 6.6K. The foul trouble and minutes limit is kind of baked into his price at this point. Projects really well. He's going to be owned. That is chalk I do not mind eating. The like low mid range for center looks pretty damn good. Sarr, Turner, Jared Allen, Claxton, all these guys look pretty good, but Duren is the best play. If you want to get a little bit safer, Zubac is the play there, I think. I don't want to ignore Mobley here and Giannis, but we already talked about them. How are you feeling about these guys?
Yeah, I think Duren with Zoo might be a really chalky build, which it's fine. Like they're both great for the dollar, both in pretty good spots. So I'm okay with that. I'm just concerned that the ownership's going to be pretty significant on them. I think Stewart at 3-2 is also going to be popular, but he is a pretty good value. Like you're not going to find much else in that range. Another good per minute guy.
Is he?
I would consider playing him with Duren, which is something I wouldn't normally do, but the slate is small, the value sucks. They're playing the Wizards, so I do think it is semi-viable on this slate. Yeah, I think Zoo's the top overall guy here if you don't include Giannis. Sarr is okay, but Holmes is back. His price is coming up. Matchup is not ideal. So certainly viable. And then Brook Lopez, I think, is going to be 0% owned against Indiana, a team that is not very imposing defensively, particularly at center. I think there's some upside on him if you're looking for someone who's going to be completely overlooked.
Yeah, doesn't really live inside very much, though, and also is the world's worst 7-foot rebounder in the world. I think he's fine. I think the Isaiah Stewart call is really interesting. I was going to talk about him if you weren't going to. 3.2K for a guy who's going to get 15 to 20 minutes against the Wizards. That's interesting. Obviously, if Duren got into foul trouble here, he would benefit greatly. I think Stewart's a really good call. That was the thing I was going to ask you is, can we pair these two? I think you can, because look at all the other just nasty dice rolls we're considering taking on this slate anyways. Like, how is like somebody like Batum or Obi Toppin like way better than Isaiah Stewart against the Wizards? They're not. They're just as risky, really. So I think he looks really good at 3.2. I probably would try to get most of the exposure to him in non-Duren lineups, but I do agree that you can pair them if you want to. All right, that's going to do it for our position by position breakdown. Let's kind of end things here with our strategy, if we have one on this dog shit 4-gamer, and our flag plant of the night.
God. I think my strategy would just be to not play Zoo and Duren together, because I think that's going to be a really chalky build. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Like, they both project really well, but if you're looking for a way to get different, that's one way to do it, I think, right away. I'm leaning now against playing Stewart and Duren together just because they are both projected to be owned. Like, if Stewart was going to be unowned and Duren was, I'd be more okay with it, but you're not really getting an ownership discount that way. So I don't know. There are a lot of ways to go, and none of them are good on this slate. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I think the only like convictions I have, honestly, are Giannis and Duren. I think Duren, like, you play bigs against the Wizards. Duren is just a man eater, and he can get a double-double in his sleep, especially in this matchup. I love Duren here. I just think you're basically getting Zubac at a discount. So pairing them seems a little bit redundant. And I just would rather take that money and spread it out a little bit. Not that Zubac is not an amazing play. He's a great play. I just feel like Duran can meet him at 2,000 less. And Giannis just has more upside than anybody. So I understand the Zion thing. Like, we got to get different on the slate somehow. I'm not going to do that with Giannis. I'm not going to do that with Duran. I'll eat a lot of the other chalk. Like, if Sam Merrill's chalky, I do not mind taking a 3.3K dive there because shooting guard is abysmal. But the other thing, you just got to find a way to get different. Look at all those other values. Maybe pivot off of Alvarado or find another guy that's chalky. Like, Zubac is chalky right now. Drop down a little bit from Zubac or pivot to somebody in that range from Zubac. Like Kawhi, I like Kawhi a little bit more than Zubac just because of possibly the ownership angle. And then as a leverage and Harden too, it's like a double-pronged option there. But we got to wait for some more news and see what else opens up. And just to get an update and everything, head into our Discord. You can talk shop with everybody, including us. And then also we'll give out core plays on Patreon before the night gets going here. All right. Thanks for watching and good luck.